Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma, and with me is Manoj Singh Rana, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair UN Security Council open debate on maintenance of international peace and security on the 9th of this month. Warfare in Afghanistan has sharpened the challenge of terrorism, says External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar at BRICS. More than 47 crore 85 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far in India. National recovery rate stands at 97.38%. In Tokyo Olympics, battle line drawn between Belgium and Australia for summit clash in men's hockey. Indian women's hockey team to take on Argentina on Wednesday in semi-finals. And Indian boxer Lavlina Borgohain to take on B. Sumeneli of Turkey on Wednesday in the semi-finals in the welterweight category. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccine campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and to help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually chair the UN Security Council open debate on maintenance of international peace and security, maritime security, on the 9th of August. The External Affairs Ministry said this will be the first time an Indian Prime Minister will preside over open debate. India had on Sunday assumed the rotating presidency of the United Nations Security Council. India will focus on peacekeeping and counter-terrorism besides maritime security during its presidency of the UN Security Council. Previously, it has been the president of the UNSC in June 1950, September 1967, December 1972, October 1977, February 1985, October 1991, December 1992, August 2011, and November 2012. The Ambassador of India to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurthy, has stated that India's priority in the United Nations Security Council, UNSC, is on issues that are directly relevant to the international community, such as maritime security, peacekeeping, and counter-terrorism. He was speaking to the media in New York yesterday on the major areas of focus in August under India's presidency of UNSC.
It is both an honor and privilege for India to preside over the Security Council in August. This, as you know, is our 8th tenure in the Security Council. Let me start with the signature events that we plan to have during our presidency. There are 3 major areas which we will focus on in August: maritime security, peacekeeping, and counter-terrorism.
On the agenda of counter-terrorism, India's top envoy to the UN said that India has consistently kept the spotlight on combating terrorism both inside the Council during discussions and outside as well. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on India outlining 3 major areas under its presidency at the UN Security Council. In conversation are Veena Sikri, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, a journalist.
Ambassador Sikri, when we see the significance of India assuming the presidency of the UNSC for the month of August, how do you see this development in terms of the background in which we are seeing the world in a lot of crises, the COVID crisis, the Afghanistan crisis? How do you view this development?
It is a very important moment. I would really reiterate that this is a very special moment for India. It's a very important fact that India has been elected as a member of the Security Council for 2 years, a non-permanent permanent member for 2021 and 22. And as part of this term, we are assuming the rotating presidency on the 1st of August. And certainly before the end of the term, I think for one more month, we will also be once again the rotating president. The rotating presidency is a very important concept because, of course, the UN Security Council keeps on functioning. It has its own standard agenda, which keeps on being discussed, all the crisis issues in the world, whether it is Syria or Iraq or Sudan or Mali, so many issues which keep on being discussed. But when one country assumes the rotating presidency, we have a special opportunity to bring our own vision, our own leadership role to the functioning of the Security Council. And that is why this rotating presidency has a special significance for India. I think India's membership of the Security Council has always been respected and well regarded all over the world. This is the 8th time in as many decades. As you know, the UN is in the 8th decade of its existence, and this is the 8th time that India has been elected as member of the Security Council, so roughly once every 10 years regularly. So this is a great tribute to India's leadership role. Now, having said this as background, I would say that India has already conveyed that during this month of presidency of the UN Security Council, India has highlighted 3 issues that we would like to focus on over and above the normal agenda of the Security Council and the normal discussions which go on. These 3 issues are, number 1, the issue of maritime security, number 2, the issue of peacekeeping, and number 3, the issue of counterterrorism. I think that these 3 issues highlight India's own vision in 3 or 4 different aspects. One is the whole issue of the Indo-Pacific. The maritime security brings us directly into the issue of the India-Pacific, the issue of the Quad, and the concept of Sagar that Prime Minister Modi has given security and growth for all in the region. So one is looking at this concept of maritime security, which is very vital, which is critical to the future growth and development of the world, because you want peaceful movement of goods. You do not want any clashes on the high seas. And how you will ensure that maritime security is a challenge for all countries of the world. And India has been playing a leadership role in this area ever since the concept of Sagar was enunciated by our Prime Minister. So right from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and all the areas in between, which means the eastern coast of Africa to the western coast of the USA, one is looking at a vast territory, and how is one going to look at maritime security issues in this vast territory. There is anticipation that perhaps there will be a special meeting on this in the next 5 or 6 days, and there has also been an anticipation that perhaps our Prime Minister might virtually chair the session of the Security Council on maritime security. So is highlighting the great importance India attaches to this issue. Second issue is the one of peacekeeping, and I think that this is a very important role that India has played in all UN peacekeeping operations in previous decades. India, Pakistan and Bangladesh are the 3 most predominant contributor countries to UN peacekeeping forces all over the world, and Indian troops have distinguished themselves wherever they have served in UN peacekeeping operations. There will probably be a solemn event in memory of the peacekeepers who have lost their lives during their work in UN peacekeeping operations. So I think it is very fitting and appropriate that India has chosen this aspect of UN peacekeeping, because this is something where India has made a contribution and is likely to continue to make a contribution. This is an important role of the UN in maintaining peace and security all over the world, but it needs to be discussed. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be considered how this can be made more effective, how the security of the peacekeeping forces can be preserved, and these aspects need to be looked at very carefully. The third issue that one is looking at is India has highlighted for its month-long presidency of the UN Security Council is the issue of counterterrorism. And as you know, for India, this is a vital issue. This is an issue which affects us in every day of our lives, because we have terrorist attacks, we have infiltration, we have now the drones coming in carrying weapons and carrying all kinds of illegal material, and we have to unite and bring to the world the importance of having a world convention on counterterrorism. We have to agree on a globally accepted definition of terrorism, and we have to work from there and work towards having a global convention on counterterrorism. This has been India's initiative for a long time. It has, not had a very speedy progress, but one hopes that with the leadership that we will be providing during the month of the presidency of the UN Security Council, we will be able to move forward on this vital issue. Counterterrorism affects every country of the world. India on a daily basis, but one sees its impact everywhere. If you look at even the 9/11, the attack on the Twin Towers in New York, and right from there, the way it has built up. We see now the terrorist attacks going on in Afghanistan, and how the Taliban is trying to use violence to exert its control over areas of Afghanistan, and the impact on the civilian population, the impact on women and children. So there has to be an accepted definition of how what falls in this aspect of counterterrorism. So these are some of the three issues that are being highlighted in this 1 month.
Ambassador Sikri, we also see that the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, tweeted and he said that as we take over UNSC presidency for August, look forward to working productively with other members. India will always be a voice of moderation, an advocate of dialogue, and a proponent of international law. And as you were mentioning about China, and when it comes to maritime security, that is where India's primary interests are. Do you feel that with India having the presidency for a month and maritime security being of utmost importance to us, do you think India can press the world and China to maybe mend its way, because we've seen very aggressive China in the South China Seas? Do you think India can make that clear to China that maybe it needs to step back from its aggressive behavior?
Yes, certainly India will be working in this area to make it clear to China and any other country that's looking at this issue that there has to be a rules-based international order. And what China has been trying to do is to disrupt this rule-based international order. Even when you talk about the South China Sea and the movement of trade and naval vehicles and naval ships and other, the sea lanes of communication have to be open and peaceful and work within a rule-based international order. There is a law of the sea that has been enunciated. India has been very careful and always been a great proponent of following the rules-based international order. And this was in fact part of what our Prime Minister had focused on when he gave the concept of Sagar to the world. So this is going to be very much the focus, that we have to define this rule-based international order. All countries should accept it and abide by it. I think our External Affairs Minister's statement is very appropriate, that India has always been the voice of moderation, and we have always maintained that we will work in favor of the middle path in finding solutions that are win-win solutions for all countries, and we are going to maintain this always. We are always an advocate of dialogue. We do not advocate violence. We do not advocate unilateral action. We are prepared for dialogue, but we have always maintained that dialogue cannot go side by side with terrorism. So if one party to dialogue is insisting on terrorist activities, then they have to desist from those activities before they can be welcomed to the dialogue table. I think the proponent of international law that External Affairs Minister spoke about is an important aspect, because in our efforts in the United Nations and in the Security Council, and as we look ahead, India has been a very, very important leader in talking about reformed multilateralism. That in this world, we are all in one global endeavor. We are all living in the same universal home, as it were. So it is important for all of us to be good neighbors. To be good neighbors, you have to follow a system of law. You have to abide by the rules and regulations that everybody has agreed upon. And it is precisely the effort of countries like China to break the international law regime that is causing all the problems. And, as they did in Eastern Ladakh, beginning with May 2020, the peace that was existing there for decades was broken by the actions in the Galwan Valley of China, aggressive actions by China in the Galwan Valley. So I think that we have to bring these three principles as leadership principles for the whole world to accept. And we will be doing it in each of the debates. And I'm sure that the debates will be led by different leaders, by the the Prime Minister, as I mentioned, by the External Affairs Minister, by the Foreign Secretary. And this will be part of India's whole vision for the United Nations and what we look for. It is the first time that we are showing to the world that India's interest in multilateralism is for India as a country. It's not just the External Affairs Ministry. It's not just one ministry. It is an interest for the country as a whole. And that is the important signal that when our Prime Minister is likely to preside over a virtual meeting of the Security Council, virtually preside over a meeting of the Security Council on maritime security, then that will give this signal. I think it's only way back in 1992 when former Prime Minister Narasimha Rao attended a UN Security Council meeting. So you can imagine from 1992 to now how many decades have passed. But now this leadership aspect is being brought out very forcefully, and certainly I think this will be conveyed in no uncertain terms. I think one of the aspects that India is certainly going to look at when we talk about reformed multilateralism and how we are going to conduct our 2 years, this certainly the month of August when we are President of the Security Council, but also the remaining part of the 2 years, roughly 1.5 years remaining for our term as member of the UN Security Council, non-permanent member. This issue of reformed multilateralism brings in the issue of reform of the Security Council and many other UN institutions, and the expansion of the Security Council, the expansion of the permanent membership of the Security Council, or whether there will be some other formula that there will be an expansion and certain countries will be given longer term. There's so many formulas which are in existence, and certainly India is part of a very active group, India, Japan, Germany, Brazil, who are looking at and who are working hard at. And it is interesting and important to note that all the remaining, out of 5 permanent members, existing permanent members of the Security Council, 4 permanent members have supported India's permanent seat on the Security Council. USA, France, and UK, and Russia, all 4 have. It's only China which is holding out, and certainly we know why that is so. They're playing a very negative role in this, and all the other 4 have accepted. So certainly this issue of reformed multilateralism, of wanting to reform the UN Security Council and many other institutions, this will bring in a greater number of countries in the leadership role of the UN, and so give all the countries of the world a greater stake in the role of the UN for peacekeeping, for global operations, for economic growth, for development, for countering terrorism, for preventing countries from using terrorism as a weapon of choice. So all these issues are what we are going to take up in the 1 month of our presidency and in the remaining 1.5 years of our membership of the Security Council.
Thank you.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India's presidency of BRICS is underpinned by 4 pillars: reform of the multilateral system, counter-terrorism cooperation, technological and digital solutions for sustainable development goals, and enhancing people-to-people cooperation. Addressing the inaugural session of BRICS Academic Forum through video conferencing, Dr. Jaishankar said these pillars may seem abstract or even perennial, but each one of them actually has an explicit real-world meaning. He said BRICS is a statement of global rebalancing that emphasizes its essential diversity and pluralism.
India's presidency of BRICS comes at such an inflection point for this grouping. The pandemic has devastated economies and societies. The juncture then is pregnant with challenges as well as opportunities. The role of the BRICS countries, of the ideas, strategies and policies they contribute has never been so apparent.
The minister said an updating and recalibration of the post-World War II multilateral architecture cannot be postponed any further. He said the pandemic and the normative breakdown in its wake have rudely reminded us that institutions built to tackle problems of the 1940s desperately need to be upgraded and made fit for purpose for our century. Dr. Jaishankar said an expansion of the permanent membership of the Security Council is a necessary ingredient. The External Affairs Minister said the multilateral institutions have been disadvantaged by structural inertia, competitive gridlocks, uneven resourcing and skewed navigation. The External Affairs Minister said terrorism thrives in some of these gaps and its nursery lies in conflict-ridden spaces made fertile for radicalization by malign players, including states. He said the transition in Afghanistan that we are seeing today and the warfare that has yet again been forced upon its people has sharpened the challenge of terrorism. Dr. Jaishankar said, left unattended,
its edge will be deeply felt not just in Afghanistan's neighborhood, but well beyond. He said, "We are therefore all stakeholders in the quest for a clear, coordinated and undifferentiated response to terrorism." He said, "In the 21st century, legitimacy cannot be derived from mass violence, brutal intimidation or covert agendas." He added that representation, inclusion, peace and stability are inextricably linked. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
India has administered over 47 crore 85 lakh doses of COVID vaccine so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said more than 61 lakh 9,000 vaccine doses were administered in the last 24 hours. The ministry said 38,887 patients recovered from COVID during the last 24 hours and the national recovery rate has reached 97.38%. Till now, more than 3 crore 8 lakh people have recovered from COVID-19. The ongoing COVID-19 restrictions in Bangladesh have been extended till August the 10th to contain the spread of the coronavirus in the country. The current phase of COVID-19 related lockdown in the country, which started on July the 23rd, was scheduled to come to an end on August the 5th. The announcement was made in Dhaka by the Liberation War Affairs Minister AKM Muzammal Haq, who chaired the inter-ministerial meeting held at the Secretariat on Tuesday, reports the official news agency BSS.
China has started a vaccination campaign for teenagers aged 12 to 17 years in a bid to curb fresh COVID-19 outbreak that has spread to at least 18 provinces. As the number of coronavirus cases in China continues to rise, Chinese medical researchers are stepping up their work to develop a booster shot to help contain the more dangerous strain. The state media reported that all 31 provinces in the mainland China have issued notices advising people not to travel domestically. India's Law and Justice Minister Kiren Rijiju will attend the 8th meeting of the Ministers of Justice of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization on the 6th of this month. He'll be joined by Minister State for Law and Justice, Professor S.P. Singh Baghel. During the meeting, member states will further deliberate on areas of cooperation, the role of coronavirus laws in the pandemic, providing free legal aid to citizens in accordance with national legislation, role of ministries of justice in countering corruption, and other allied areas of cooperation and assistance in legal services. A joint statement following the meeting will be signed. The Ministers of Law and Justice and senior officials, experts from the Ministries of Law and Justice of India, Kazakhstan, China, Kyrgyz Republic, Pakistan, Russian Federation, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan will be participating in the meeting. And now, a report from the business world.
At the stock markets, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange shot up 873 points or 1.7% to end at an all-time high of 53,823 today. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange spurted 246 points or 1.6% to a record high of 16,131. At the domestic forex market, the rupee gained 6 paise to 74 rupees and 28 paise against the US dollar. Among global markets, key indices in Asia Pacific ended mostly lower. So Japan's Nikkei index and China's Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.5% each. Singapore's Straight Points Index slipped 0.4% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index shed 0.2%. But South Korea's Kospi Index gained 0.4%. In Europe, London's FTSE had gained 0.4%, France's CAC had climbed 1.1%, and Germany's DAX had gained 0.2% in intraday trade. Brent crude oil rose today on expectation of a continuous decline in U.S. oil inventories due to lingering concern over rising cases of the Delta coronavirus variant. So the Brent crude oil futures rose 60 cents to $73.49 a barrel. U.S. crude futures climbed 63 cents to 71.89 a barrel. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
Indian Sports Minister Anurag Thakur on Tuesday launched the theme song for Tokyo Paralympics in New Delhi.
कुछ ऐसे हैं जो पूछे क्या कर पाएगा क्या अपनी मिट्टी खातिर तू लड़ पाएगा ये आखिरी बारी सोच के अब तू जान लगा दे जा तेरे पीछे देश की तेरी परछाई है कर दे कमाल तू बन जा मिसाल तू देश का लाल तू बन जा मिसाल तू.
Speaking on the occasion, Mr. Thakur said Indian para-athletes have performed consistently in the international para-sports competitions and brought laurels for the country. He hoped that Indian para-athletes will shine in the Tokyo Paralympics. The battle line has been drawn between Belgium and Australia for a summit clash in the men's hockey at the Tokyo Olympic Games. On the 11th day, Australia defeated Germany 3-1 in the semi-final match on Tuesday evening. With this win, Australia reached in the finals after 17 years. Earlier, India lost to Belgium 5-2 in the first semi-final. The final match in the men's hockey between Belgium and Australia will be played on Thursday to decide the gold and silver honours, while India will meet Germany for the bronze medal on the same day. India has reached in the medal round after 4 decades following Moscow Olympics. Indian boxer Lavlina Borgohain has already ensured a medal for the country by storming into the semi-finals in the welterweight category. She will take on B. Sumeneli of Turkey on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Indian women's hockey team will take on Argentina in the semi-final on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Another women's hockey semi-final will take place between Netherlands and Great Britain on the same day. Indian wrestlers will be seen in action on Wednesday in their respective categories. In men's freestyle 86 kg category, Deepak Punia will take on Ekerekeme Egiomor of Nigeria, while Ravi Kumar Dahiya will meet Oscar Tigres of Colombia in the 57 kg category. In women's freestyle 57 kg category, Anshu Malik will contest with Irina Kurachkina of Belarus. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes, GOP senators feud over cryptocurrency plan as lawmakers seek funding for infrastructure deal. The Guardian says fears for Afghan city of Lashkar Gah as fierce clashes continue. The New York Times writes that touring Trinity, the birthplace of nuclear dread. Sputnik News posts, UK calls for new presidential election in Belarus as nation marks 1 year since protests. Financial Times says Singapore to grant first crypto license in bid to lure digital asset groups. And the Himalayan Times says that China orders mass testing in Wuhan as COVID outbreak spreads.
India's Defence Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar has launched a website on the 75th Independence Day celebrations 2021. India NIDC 2021.mod.gov.in in New Delhi. It is a platform to connect Indians from world over to celebrate the national festival.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair UN Security Council open debate on maintenance of international peace and security on the 9th of this month. Warfare in Afghanistan has sharpened the challenge of terrorism, says External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar at BRICS. More than 47 crore 85 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far in India. National recovery rate stands at 97.38%. In Tokyo Olympics, battle line drawn between Belgium and Australia for summit clash in men's hockey. Indian women's hockey team to take on Argentina on Wednesday in semi-final. And Indian boxer Lavlina Borgohain to take on B. Sumeneli of Turkey on Wednesday in the semi-finals in the welterweight category. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Niger on their Independence Day.
धन धन जननी तेनी रे समदृष्टीने त्रिशिरा त्यागी परस्त्री जेने माती रे जीव हाताकी असत्यान्न बोले परधन नव जहले हाती रे.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.